Hi there, Andrew. How are you?
Hey man, how you doing?
All right, thanks. Not bad.
Good, good.
I take it you're up in Burton these days. So
Burton on
how
Trent,
is
yeah.
it? Yeah, Burton on Trent. Yeah. So how is that?
It's all right, it's call it sunny Burton. It's one of those places that when the sun's out, it's beautiful, but it can look like a pretty crappy northern town.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's all right. It's the home of Branston Pickle, home of
No,
Marmite.
I'd never like. Oh, Marmite. Oh, is that from there?
Yes,
Oh, okay. I like.
yes,
Are
yeah.
you a hater or a lover?
I like it. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like it as a child, but
Okay. All right.
partial to a bit of
Yeah.
Marmite
No,
now.
so am I. I have to have it here in Poland. So
Right. Okay.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. Obviously, you're a Lincoln lad originally, aren't you? You're from there. So do
Yes.
you ever?
Yeah.
I know you're not that far away, but it's far enough. It's a couple of hours away, I think.
It's about
So
an hour and a half in the car. Yeah, it's weird,
yeah,
isn't it, with Britain being so small? I mean, my
yeah.
dad still lives there, and I keep meaning to go over and see him more than I do.
Ah,
But
okay.
like you say, you just don't get over there, do you? You know.
No, but I've got a boy living in Lincoln. My youngest son
Right.
lives there, and which is why I saw you there years ago. And
Yeah.
I was only there 2 weeks ago, but I don't generally go up there every time I go back to Britain either. But
No.
it's a bit of
No.
an arse ache from the south. so,
Yeah.
so you're a
Sure.
bit
Yeah.
closer, but do you drive?
I don't know. No.
Oh no,
Good
no.
drive. No.
So you have to depend on trains, I guess, from
Yeah. My
where you
partner
are.
drives, so he'll
Oh,
drive.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
chauffeur driven.
Absolutely. It's the only
Yeah.
way, mate.
Yeah. Well, you pop stars. So, anyway, we're here to talk about extended network. This is a
Yeah.
project you have been working away at since, tell me if I'm wrong, 2012, 2011, 2012, your
Yeah.
solo
Around that time.
project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you seem pretty prolific as well. So, are you always working away on music for extended network?
Yeah, I mean, I was at that time, I was just doing it constantly. And after playing shows in Nottingham under various different, so this thing called Mark's Brother for a while. And
Mm.
before that, I had this electronic thing called Infant.
Yeah, you did an
Uh,
LP, I think. I think I've got it.
yeah, there's an LP, yeah, but it was all kind of cottage industry led stuff, which doesn't tend to, I mean, especially then, doesn't really tend to go too far unless you're, I don't know. I wasn't very well connected, I guess. So, but anyway, so I was just like sticking things on social media.
Yeah, of
By
course.
that point, Bandcamp was around, and it was kind of a futile sort of thing, really. So it was a lot of making music just for my own uh, endeavors.
Well,
You
just
know,
for
I,
your own enjoyment kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was
So,
putting it on Bandcamp, but I was kind of like, I wasn't under any delusion that anything was going to happen with it. I mean, the only reason stuff happened with Infant, because a friend of mine in Nottingham who's quite successful, a guy called Giom, so that's why I got that album because he put an album out
okay.
on Near Ouija's label, and then they wanted some remixes, so I kind of like remixed like 6 tracks off his album because I was like,
Oh,
I've
okay.
got to get something on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, there was a lot of optimism then. 2001,
Mm.
end of the 90s. There was sort of for electronica. There's this little bubble period of people being inspired by Tekra and Aphex Twin and that sort of thing.
Absolutely,
But
the
it
old
was
warp
it was
stuff.
it yeah, and Black Dog and stuff. It's quite
Yeah.
short-lived, really. It was kind of like a mini scene, sort of, in my mind anyway. It's sort of between 1998 and 2001, and then more folky stuff came in, and it sort of changed and sort of died, really, going
What,
into the
what do you
noughts.
mean by the folk stuff? Because I'm not sure I'm following.
You just kind of get more like folktronica,
Oh,
all that sort of thing sort of filtered into it. And
who are you
again, it was
thinking of? Which artists?
there's a guy called Amon Dune. I can't remember
No,
which
not
it is.
Hamilton.
Not
No, that's
Amandor,
not,
no,
no, no.
no, that's an
Anyone?
old band.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a
Yeah,
few of their albums. So,
just
uh,
like really fringe things. Anyway, I did this
oh, okay. Well, I'm not
compilation.
familiar with it. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Leaf Cutter John would he have been?
exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
saw him in
yeah.
Krakow.
And
Really
there's a
good.
guy called Hood. Do you remember Hood?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And they came
Yeah.
out of the Bristol scene, I think.
Right. Did they?
With
Okay. Yeah.
Flying Saucer Attack, and
Yeah. I mean,
I could be wrong,
I
or
mean,
Leeds.
Badly Drawing Boy, I suppose, is you could add to that, and like,
Probably, yeah, yeah.
that's kind of it's one of those things that once someone kind of gets somewhere with that kind of scene, it kind of killed the scene in a way, and
Okay. So
that's yeah,
I wasn't really aware of, although I like electronic music, and certainly I love the artists you mentioned, like
yeah,
Oteka and Aphex
yeah,
Twin, and
yeah,
earlier stuff as well, which is what I wanted to talk to you about, because
right.
obviously you've mentioned some stuff that came out of the nines. I suppose it came out in the mid to late 90s. Is that when it came
Sure,
to
yeah,
prominence? Warp
yeah,
Records and
yeah, yeah,
Sabres of Paradise, this kind of thing, Two
mhm,
Lone Swordsmen, all that stuff.
yeah, yeah,
All good
yeah,
stuff. Um,
yeah,
but
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, but is that your background? Is that how you got into elect? Because were you going clubbing or anything like that?
I was always not really. No, I mean,
No.
I was always too skint to go anywhere really.
Oh right. Okay. So,
Um,
oh.
I've always been into everything. The friends I live with in Nottingham were all really into hard rock. So if there was a
Oh.
band playing in Nottingham, like I don't know, Brainiac or something like that, it'd be like a cheap gig. So you just go along to that.
So yeah,
Um,
cheap night out.
well, yeah, but then there'll be a culture to it as well. That there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a certain group of people that would be there. If you cut to now, people will go to everything, won't they? They'll go and watch, I don't know, a noise act or a guitar band or a synth act,
That's
or
true. Yeah, it's very
it
very
used to be.
eclectic.
It used to be quite divided, didn't it? So
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings about that. I know you're a little younger than me, but I
yeah,
came out the punk post punk thing,
yeah,
and I do remember all of that tribalism,
yeah,
and people would sometimes get beaten up, just
right.
for being from the wrong tribe. I
Yeah,
think you being a little younger probably missed out on some, missed
I
out
think I
in a
think
good way.
the violence had kind of like gone away, but the
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
segregation was still there. You just wouldn't meet other people if you didn't go to the right nights, would you? So.
yeah, yeah. Of
Um,
course,
but
but
there'd be Nottingham was a great party town, so there'd always be like after parties and people's house every weekend. You could go out on a Friday night and you wouldn't go home till Monday morning, kind of thing. But
right, okay.
it wasn't really very focused. It was all sort of the obvious people like Smokescreen and DIY. It'd just be house music, so there'd be a strong connection with drug taking, which is not completely my idea. I think that's the thing about electronica when it came along. It wasn't so drug fueled.
Right, okay, yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was influenced by people that had taken drugs, but it was more. You know, your mum could listen to it or something.
You could say that about the Beatles. I think they
Well,
took a
yeah,
few
well,
few
that's kind of
drugs.
what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
yeah, I
just,
know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
it's a bit
So,
more, if X Twins ambient works, it's very listenable, isn't it?
oh yeah,
Or like,
yeah. It's very
or
pleasant, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, that's the word. Yeah, without
yeah.
saying it, but yeah.
Not window liquor though. I mean,
Or no.
so, yeah. Don't want my mum hearing that. Anyway, um, so yeah, okay. So obviously, I've got an idea as to where you were coming from. So what actually inspired you to start doing electronic music yourself?
Um, hmm. I guess I was always into it, even when I was 16, like all the pop music,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
When I met you in Lincoln, which was years ago now, probably 10, no, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
11 years ago. I think you were playing a small place in with the mods, of course, in a
Okay.
small place, a small venue in Lincoln. So it must have been 10, 11 years ago. Um, and I remember I did an interview with you and Jay, and you were talking about your music influences, and you were talking about, I think you mentioned Butthole Surfers, you
Right.
mentioned
Yeah.
George Michael,
Right.
yeah, and it was quite an
Yeah.
eclectic mix.
Quite eclectic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which I thought was interesting. It's
That's always been my gripe with stuff. That it's just music, isn't it? At the end of the day.
of course it is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
So,
mean, again, I think that's a good thing about the fact that some of this, or most of this, tribalism's gone. Because there aren't any boundaries now. In a way, as I said before, I grew up with punk, post-punk, and in the late 70s, early 80s, everything was kind of filtered through that for me. And when I was reading the weekly music papers and everything else, I was gravitating towards those artists that had come from that, and then reading their interviews, and then picking away at things that were kind of accepted. The usual Bowie, Captain Beefheart, and so everything is already going it's in a certain box or two. So so in a
but
way,
it's very progressive there, wasn't it? It was going in a certain direction.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm
can
kind
you
of
hold one? Can you hold 1 second? There's
Yeah, of
someone at the
course.
door.
Yeah, no problem.
Hello. Joe. Okay. Can you just leave around the side there? Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's all right. These things happen.
Yeah.
So usually happens to me, actually.
Yeah, some shelves being delivered.
So. Oh, shelves. Okay. Are you still in the process of organising your house then?
No, it's for the garage, like work shelves. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, where were we?
Where were we? We were talking about. Yes, I was saying. Well, you said about how this. You were talking about how progressive some of that stuff was, but what I wanted to emphasise was how, in a way, it's good that those barriers have now gone. And I think that's what you were alluding to before as well. The idea that you could listen to anything. You didn't come purely from an electronic background.
No,
well, that's my impression.
Yeah, I mean, I only got that idea from the Times. To me, like that's what it was like through the 90s. You had like the Orb, then you had the Buttholes, then you had, and it was great. You had all this different music, and and as someone that's, you're young enough to just be completely impressionable with it. Why wouldn't you just be into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it, in a way, it's good that younger generations now don't have those kind of barriers, that certainly my generation did have, or at least a lot of us had anyway. So it's maybe self-made, arguably.
The thing now, there's no real progression. There's no like surface that you can scratch that will take you into, from one artist to the next. Like you used to get with like whatever it was, whether it was post-punk or it was industrial music or it was electronica. You could or trip hop or something. You'd find other bands. You find one band and you'd find acts, or if you like, you'd find 10. And
that's true.
That would be the great thing about it,
Yeah, absolutely. So to go back to your own music making, how often? I think you're still working away at extended work music as well. So it runs parallel. It runs in tandem to what you're doing with the mods, and.
I mean the mods is most of the time, but
of course it is.
I think the solo things really kind of found a little place where it's it was kind of therapy for me. It was something that kept me out of trouble and filled a lot of hours when to do things. If I had a laptop, I could make music, and I couldn't afford to go out partying all the time anyway. So
okay, so you're a bit of a nerd back in the day. So you're like a
Not
computer
really. I wouldn't say a
nerd or
nerd, but
geek.
I was just obsessive with making music. And by the time
Okay.
it got to, once by the time it got to say 2009, I was old enough to, I was hitting my late 30s or whatever, and it was just. I was just still making music, it was still something that was very important to me, it was something that I prioritized in my life. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's weird when things are a hobby, but they're a little bit more than a hobby.
Mm,
You'd never describe them as a hobby. It's still something that you're very passionate about and serious about. But there's a certain realism to think, well, the music industry is a bit fucked, and it's been fucked for a long time for various reasons. Since 2000, the
oh,
MP3 thing
absolutely. Yeah,
sold it, and even more now. Everything's kind of being erased and forgotten. The internet's being cleaned up, and all those little alternative links to whatever are being shut down and
that's true. Yeah.
uh, homogenized, I guess is the word.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So, as you said, kind of streamlined in a way, and it's a shame.
We've actually lost certain genres. Like I rebought Me Beat Manifesto album the other day, Satyricon, because I didn't realise it had been reissued, and I absolutely love that album. And that sort of sound, bands like Consolidated and
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, and that was a whole, again, that was like a mini era. That was like a 2 to 3 year era of music.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah, I've still got some of those records as well. The
I mean, it's
Beatniks as well.
yeah,
Yeah, that kind of
exactly, yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, you're right, and I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. The fact that certain things are being kind of waylaid, so that's an unfortunate side effect of what's going on these days. But
yeah.
but obviously you've got your hands in both worlds, haven't you? I mean, you've got the mods, which is high, let's say high profile, doing doing very well. You I know you've got a year off at the moment, but at the same time, you've got extended network, which I guess is keeping you busy in those moments when you don't have commitments to the mods. But maybe there's a question here. But how do you separate? Because obviously you're the the nuts and bolts of the mods, aren't you? You're producing. I know Jason will direct and suggest ideas, and so
Sure.
and you collaborate in that sense. But you are doing the, yeah, you're at the coal face, aren't you? And with
Yes, so yeah,
with the music
yeah.
making. And how do you decide what goes to them, to to the mods and to extended network? What's the defining feature? Is there one even?
Not really, no. I mean,
No.
I won't say anything about the new album, but we've kind of pushed it forward a little bit more again, and there's always quite a few ideas that are musical, because Jason really likes music as well. So
Yeah, I know, I know.
there are things that might be a little bit more extended network that we could try that don't really work because they're not Sleaford modsy enough.
Yeah,
But that's part of the fun of experimenting with what we're doing with it and where we're going with it. And like this year, we've had more time to do that, so
okay.
that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, like if it's really ambient type stuff, like stuff on the album that's coming out, none of that would really work for Sleaford mods.
No, this is what I'm thinking. Because you need
But
a little punchier stuff, don't you, for the
yeah, I mean
mods?
that's the other thing, with the solo thing. I'm trying. It's an opportunity for me to be a bit more indulgent with what I want to do, and not pander to anything. Just do exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Obviously it's got to be, it's got to be. You want to sell it, you've got to sell the records.
Yeah, yeah, of
But
course.
I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with what it sounds. And a lot of those tracks have been finished here. But a lot of mostly, most of the track was produced through lockdown. When I
I
was
know. I was going to get onto that.
yeah,
I mean, this material that forms Albus, um,
yeah,
that's actually quite old now, isn't it? It's 3, 4 years old. a
It
lot of it.
is, yeah, but as I
So
say, like some of they've all kind of been revisited and they've had things added to them. They've been
okay,
embellished a little bit more.
okay.
Um, but yeah, but the bare bones of them were things that I've just, when I'd be cycling to Lincoln, because where I was staying with my dad through lockdown, it's basically it's like a farm type place, and there's a
Hmm.
disused railway track that's a path that takes you all the way into Lincoln.
Oh right.
So it's about 7 miles or something. So you can just put your Walkman on and just cycle and switch off because there's you don't even have to go on a road. You literally come out where the Brayford is,
Oh,
and
okay.
and you're in Lincoln. So it used to be quite cool, just listening to what you've been doing and
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And I think you described that in some of the. I'm sure you described that in the notes, don't you? Or
I did, yeah. I put a
yeah,
brief
yeah,
thing about,
yeah.
yeah,
There's an insert with this album
yes,
with the vinyl edition
yeah,
of the album, and I think you described that. So, and that makes sense. There's something I didn't equate it personally with cycling, you know, through North. I don't know which part of Lincoln you're from, but obviously I'm familiar with Lincoln a little because of
yeah,
family connections there,
sure.
and I know North Highcombe, and then you've got the cathedral at the top of the hill. But where were you? Or where's your father's place in relation to that? Is it on the same side as North
Um,
Highcombe and going towards the
It's sort of
A1?
that way, yeah. It's that way,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's a well, it's in the middle of nowhere basically. It's sort of near Saxelby,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Saxelby,
remember.
but but yeah, it's not really. It's not. It's not really. It's not near anything.
Okay,
So
yeah, I remember driving past
it's
lots of fields and
yeah.
flat land.
Exactly. There's not much out there, is there really?
Nah,
So,
but that isn't yeah, that isn't what those images are not what I conjured when when I listened to this material. I think I described it as being kind of cinematic and kind of very late night. I'm not thinking of a late after or mid afternoon cycle ride, to Lincoln, but
yeah, yeah,
there is a cinematic quality to this material, and I think I'm sure I haven't listened to your post albus work, and I know there is some. Because I'm not very good at listening to music online. Generally, I'm a physical
yeah.
format person.
Sure.
I'm very
Yeah, yeah,
old school, so
yeah,
I should check it out. But
yeah.
uh, I would say this is your most mature sounding work yet. Would you
Thank you.
agree
Yeah.
with that? Would you?
Yeah,
Do you
maybe, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there is a certain there was a certain cinematic's the right word. I was trying to make something that I mean part of that cinematic thing, like in Lincolnshire, the skies are so big, you know,
yeah, yeah.
and like I don't I've been downloading, I've worked out how to download all my Instagram posts through lockdown as well, which are all a lot of them are just like a minute of like ambience that I wrote
Oh, okay.
and the videos of the sky around Lincolnshire because
Oh,
I kind of look and going through them all. It's quite clear I was quite obsessed with it.
oh,
Because
right. Okay,
there's no real countryside in Lincolnshire. There's not. It's flat,
that's
but
right.
then
Yeah,
but the expanse that you can see, with the sunsets, it's super widescreen. It's
it
just
is. Yeah,
vast.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. My
Um,
my ex-wife, her parents are from, or they used to live in Woodhall Spa, which is quite
oh yeah.
close.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you ever go there? Did you ever go to
Well,
Woodhall
I
Spa?
mean, don't really go there, but I know
But you
it.
know where it is because there's a cinema in the woods there where there's even a guy on a piano, sort of on an
Is
organ.
there?
Yeah, just
Wow.
rising at the beginning of the
What?
the film. I was
Right.
as I've mentioned to you before, I was in Lincoln a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I met my ex-wife and my youngest son. And my ex-wife was just describing how this person's still doing that. It's probably not the
Wow.
same person, but there's still an
But it's still
organist.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. 90 years old and coming
Brilliant.
out. Yeah, yeah. It's worth
Oh,
going to just for that. So I am familiar with some of this region, and I can appreciate what you're saying because, as you said, it's very flat and I'd forgotten about that kind of widescreen aspect because obviously when I go into the heart of Lincoln itself, I'm going to a kind of suburban or urban areas, residential houses, blah blah
Oh
blah.
yeah, yeah,
But certainly on the outskirts, you do get that sense. I don't get much
yeah.
of it as I'm driving along,
No,
listening to the radio or whatever. Oh, meeting will end in 10 minutes. So there we
oh,
are. So
oh, brilliant.
I've just got my warning. I'll just move the window. That's better, so I can see you. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I understand what you mean, but by
Mm.
this kind of uh,
It's the flatness,
this
where we live
widescreen. That's
here.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, where we live here, we're on a hill. So out the front, you can basically see Bakewell and everything in the distance. It's beautiful. But then this out the back, there's a hill. So in the morning, you're waiting for the sun to come over the hill. But in Lincolnshire, if you live out, especially where my dad lives, it's just so flat. Like you get blinded if you haven't got thick curtains. You get blinded by the sun at like
Yeah.
5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate what you're saying there. So
Yeah.
would you say um, this is part of your inspiration as well, like your surroundings, your environment,
Yeah,
as
definitely.
much
Yeah,
as musical? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you did you have anything else in mind as you were making Albus? Obviously, you're in a specific situation. We had lockdown. We had the pandemic looming.
yeah,
It was a strange kind of world at the time, and it's even now looking back, I think, God, did it really happen? Yeah, but it did.
yeah. I
It
mean,
was
I've
really
got to say, I
weird.
quite enjoyed it. And
Oh, so did I.
I was quite lucky that I'd landed. Ended up living at my mum and dad's at the time,
Okay.
um, because like I say, it's 2 miles from anything. It's like, there's no. It's a farmhouse that's. There's no village. There's a village about 3 miles away. There's a place called Doddington. Do you know Doddington?
I know of it. Yeah, because again, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about the signs that I
yeah. There's a
drive
posh.
past.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a hall there. That and like an expensive farm shop and all that sort of business.
Okay.
And you could cycle to that as well. Down this
All
lane.
right.
But I was going to say is the other part of the album is really is this place, the garden here. 'Cause part of the reason we bought this place when we looked at it was the garden was amazing. It's like about half an acre that wanders back into like a little wood.
Oh.
And the old couple that lived here, it was their thing. The garden was there.
Ah,
um I mean, the
okay.
house is nice, but the garden was just like absolutely beautiful.
Well,
Like
that
she
sold
wants
it
to.
for you.
Absolutely, yeah,
Uh,
and because they planted so much, there's bluebells everywhere, and they
oh,
planted strawberry plants everywhere, and like, we've kind of been learning about gardening through adopting this garden,
okay.
um,
So
you know, so
you,
it was that as well, the other element to the embellishment of the tracks. It came about through this garden feeling like, because the other thing about Lincolnshire, it's a bit like some sort of like desolate part of America or something. You can't have a garden there. My dad's patio is like everything dies in it. It's all too open. You know,
right?
there's no
Okay.
there's no like there's no protection from the
Oh yeah,
elements.
yeah. I suppose. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
you can make that, you can fabricate that, but he hasn't really got that. There seems to be an endeavour not to do that when you live in Lincolnshire because you just want to see the views.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
and there's, like I say, so many flowers in this garden every year. There's like this gilded rose that we have that every spring it's like all the time there's something else bursting into flower everywhere, and
Yeah. Do you
it's
keep
just
it kind
quite.
of wild as well, or?
It's well, that's what they did. They kept it quite well. But when you plant, can get garden nerdy here, but when you plant certain types of things, they keep the weeds down. Because
Okay.
when you plant things in groups, or like when you plant irises and things like that pop up. I mean, and I mean, we did No Mow May this year, and
Hmm.
the garden was like this high with dandelions,
Oh,
and it just
right.
it
Okay.
just it just looked amazing.
Yeah, I can well believe
Um,
it. Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like
our garden's semi-wild, so I appreciate that, and I think it's good, just good for nature. So we're the only people that in our neighbourhood that have got a garden like this. You know, everybody else has got all, you know, all trim, all
Yeah.
manicured lawns and everything else.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
whereas we like, well, my wife especially, she takes care of it, likes that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
wild
Yeah.
approach. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I can't imagine you. Obviously, I don't know you very well, but I just couldn't imagine you being, you know, kind of a, you know, out there with your green fingers, you know. So,
Well, we
so
are getting really into it now. We've
okay,
recently just planted lots of squash and cucumbers.
okay,
We've got a little greenhouse. We've been
mm,
learning about no-dig gardening
okay,
and also and companion planting. You know, because marigolds apparently, you know, things like slugs. You know, things that eat your vegetables.
yeah, yeah.
Marigolds distract. You know, so you can. Because we don't want to plant, we don't want to spray, we don't want to use chemicals either.
No, 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 no. Of course.
But you know, I think I'm at the right age now for it. You know, and it's a bit different when you own your own garden as well. When you rent, you don't give a fuck about it
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
don't.
Of
When it,
course.
it's not,
No,
it's not.
no.
Do you know what I mean? But when it's yours, it's like
Well,
it's
of
different.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You've got to take
Mm.
pride in, you know, where you live. I think. So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You
it
know,
makes
it's
sense. You
like
know. So
it's.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not very good at gardening myself. Yeah, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I do like the home to be nice, you know, and clean and everything else. But yeah, yeah, and you've got to look after these things. But what I'm thinking of in relation to you growing stuff as well is that you're probably, I know you're a vegan, and you're probably subsisting on a lot of homegrown produce, aren't you?
We're not at the moment, but
Oh, okay,
I mean, we're getting there. You know,
okay.
that's kind of the plan. You know, I
No, I
mean,
thought it might be.
you know, we're going to build a bigger greenhouse because the greenhouse that's here is quite small. And
Okay.
then you know, because there's all the thing about grass, isn't there? That grass is not very diverse. You know,
Mm.
um, so the top part of the lawn's going to go. That's all going to be turned into you know, raised beds and a polytunnel, and hopefully, and we've just been digesting books and watching gardening programs.
So yeah, who was that? That guy in the '70s that I grew up with, Percy Thrower. Was
Oh
that?
yeah, God, you're
Yeah,
going back a bit
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's the only. There must be some others.
Monty Don is the man of
I
the
don't.
hour.
Oh, I don't really. Oh, you really know
He's
this.
the
You really keep abreast of
Well,
all this.
it's just again, it's like you know how you social media stuff's listening to you. So I've been
Yeah.
going on YouTube, and all of a sudden Monty Don's popping up. His
Oh, right.
programmed his show
Yeah.
after it's been aired gets put on YouTube. So
Oh,
you
okay.
know it's a pretty chatty show that he does, but there might be like one or two things in it that you think, oh, that's a good idea, actually. You know,
Right.
and that's the best way you learn, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so it
absolutely.
actually goes in to your head where you think, oh, I might have a go at doing that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 of course. Um, so yeah, I've now got this impression of you either just working away on music or being out in the garden.
Honestly, sometimes I'll be in here and I'll be pottering away, then I'll think, oh, I'll just go outside for a minute, and then I'll start weeding. Yeah,
Everybody I usually ask to do one of these usually refuses.
really.
Yeah, yeah, because most of the artists that I work with are, you know, they're kind of from that underground noise.
Yes.
Most of them are a
Yeah.
little shy, I
Yeah.
think. Don't like talking about explaining what they're doing.
Yeah.
On that, I think you're more used to it because of the Sleaford mods, you know,
Yeah. I mean, I
attention.
think, yeah. I mean, you know, when we started doing it, when we came out of lockdown, we had quite a lot that year, and you know, it kind of like broke the seal completely, really. You know, I mean, you kind of realize how much it does for the cause, you know, for the music.
Mm.
I mean, we do live in that kind of world now.
Yeah,
People love it, you know. People
people love it.
they
Well, they
do.
do.
They
Yeah,
love it
I know. I know. I mean, I've been
more than they
in.
like the music almost.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this all we'll, we'll put that to
Well,
the test with this.
podcasting anyway is a
Yeah,
big business,
I
isn't
like it.
it? You
I
know?
like I'm trying to do more of it,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I've
I
got to
don't.
say it's great. You know, I mean, you know, on the record, you know, thank you for putting the album out, and thank you for, you know, just for being interested in my solo music. You know,
I've
where
always been interested in it.
yeah, well, not a lot of people are. You know, that's the thing. It's
No, I mean, I
if
love what you're doing with Extended
in
Network.
connection with what we're saying, you know, if things don't have a large, if they don't have a face to them or a large, you know, sort of social element, it's quite hard to get people into into media generally. You know,
But this is
um,
true. Also, I mean, it kind of relates to what we were touching on earlier. I think things are so quick fire now. Everything's got a very short lifespan. It's not like, and this is something I do miss from my own youth. It's the fact that, you know, if an album was promoted, it could be promoted and pushed. It would still seem new 6 months later. You know, now
yeah,
it's kind of gone in the back of an
yes,
eyelid. It's just,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's on a carousel. You know,
yeah, yeah.
um, and I'm sure you find that the Sleaford mod stuff. You know, I know people fight against that. I've worked with this Stephen Wilson guy. He does his best to keep the momentum going. I think you do that with the Sleaford mods as much as you possibly can, but it's especially for underground artists. It's, you know, there's so many of these small labels, microscopic releases. You know, they're just gone. You know,
I
here
think that
one week, gone the next.
there is an element to it though, where you know, obviously the promotion's kind of not in my control and just sort of happens.
That's true.
But you know, from country to country, you know, like when we went to South America last year, that was like a new territory, and you realise that when you have that experience, it's kind of similar to being independent, you know, because it's you know, like I said, the album's been out for ages, but to that audience, it's all new, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
You know, and I think anyway, we do live in that kind of world where it's something's new to you. You know,
Yeah,
we're all on our own on our own time now. Um,
I know what you mean, but I still don't like how fleeting everything is. It's just
so
too, you
yeah,
know,
that is true. It is like that. You're right.
yeah, it's just, yeah. Obviously things will stand the test of time, um, and you know, certain things will still be considered to be that they will hold up in the future. They will still be considered good releases. There'll be certain
Sure.
artists that hold up, but I still
Yeah.
just don't like this kind of.
There aren't any platforms, are there? There's no music television. There's nothing to.
No,
There's nothing for it to be on to sort of to represent or be there for like you say for a period of time or.
yeah, exactly. But I think you're right in saying that you know, and I watch quite a few podcasters now, and even like classic rock review, you know, and I love this
Right.
cantankerous old guy. I say he's an old guy; he's probably the same age as me, but you know, and it's all often about music that I don't even like, but I just love what he does. It's
Yeah.
just 10-15 minutes talking about
Yeah.
what he perceives to be a classic album or a classic group or 10 groups that he doesn't like or whatever. And
Mhm.
and they're really enjoyable. And I really do think podcasting has kind of its foothold is just getting it's just getting stronger and stronger at the moment. I really like it. I think there's an anarchic element, you know, an anarchic component to this as well. There's
Well,
certainly some
you've got.
freedom
There's nobody telling you what you can say and what you can't say. Is
at
there?
the
You know.
moment. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Well, at the moment. Yeah. But I
yeah,
mean, you know, even with like the BBC, for example, you know, there's what you can say and what you can't say on there on the
of
platform.
course.
You know where you don't have that.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely. So you know, things are definitely more constrained in the mainstream. Also,
but
you're
but even
as
just someone's talking relatively, you know, like a real person is kind of missing from television these days. You know,
yeah,
it's all kind of too controlled or arranged what people are saying. You know,
absolutely.
um,
Yeah, we need a little
it's
more disorder. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
especially news. You know, news is if you follow any online news or patron news, but it's a very different experience than watching.
Mainstream news is just a joke now
It's a
for me.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still dabble. Yeah, in the
Yes.
morning I'll even just go to, I don't know, the BBC or whatever, just to see what the
Yeah.
headlines are, just to get a taste of what's going on in the world. I teach as well,
Absolutely.
so I need to know
Yeah.
roughly what's going
What's
on. Yeah,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
You need to
So
know what the mainstream kind of like take on it all is, don't you?
yeah. There is that side to it, but I certainly prefer what's going on, on what I find on YouTube or whatever.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I really think but I also think YouTube, which is until recently has also been quite unconstrained, is also starting to have control measures put in as well, and
Right.
I'm not
Okay.
sure about this. So you
Yeah.
know, I,
It's inevitable, isn't it? It's
yeah,
inevitable.
yeah, exactly. But talking about technology and the way things are going, what about AI? What are your thoughts on that?
Have you heard Velvet Sundown?
No.
Oh, it's have a Google it after we get off the Zoom. It's an AI generated. Apparently, it's an AI generated sort of 70s rock band
Oh, right.
um,
Okay.
that don't really exist.
Oh,
But the track it won't you won't really like the music, but it's like a I can't think, like Steppenwolf or something. It's like a rock, an American rock track.
kind of
But
MOR.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's very well done and a
Right.
bit disturbing, you know.
Right. Oh, I'm certainly curious. But
Yes,
what are your thoughts on it? I mean, again,
terrifying. It's my
yeah,
thoughts on it. It's
yeah.
terrifying, you know. I
But
mean, I don't know, I'm as someone that uses, that always wanted a sampler as a child, wanted an emulator and, loved the idea of creating uh, music without needing any band members.
yeah.
You're still creating all that yourself. You're using tools you're learning how to use tools to do that. Whereas this, you just talk and it just creates it.
Mm.
It's a,
Right.
it's a bit freaky.
Yeah. I, well, I know many people are understandably quite afraid of what's round the corner with all of this, and obviously
Yeah.
what you just described, Velvet Sundown. Did you say they're called?
Velvet Sundown, yeah.
Yeah. I'm certainly curious, so I'll check it out. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm
I mean, the
ambivalent.
thing with that is it's not, like I say, it's not electronic music. It's not music that's emulating something that, like it's not a synthesizer size of music or anything. It's not a dance track.
Mm,
It's mimicking good old country, folky, American, live grassroots music, but
yeah.
none of it's real. It's all been
No,
created
no.
by software, or not even
Oh.
software. I don't even I don't even know how it
I don't know
works.
what it is. Something from the
An
Twilight Zone.
algorithm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's quite disturbing,
yeah.
and
And
then you'll fall down a rabbit hole. There are like people that analyze. I mean, things like Logic. You can run I put a track through Logic, and it's got an AI feature, and it'll separate all the parts. So this fella does it with a Led Zeppelin track, and he says that you can tell it's an AI track when you put an AI track through it, it can't separate the parts, or you can hear.
that's
You,
interesting. Yeah, of
well, it can
course.
do it, but you hear degradation in certain parts, like the
Okay.
guitar parts and things like that. And
Mm.
I don't know why, but that's why. I mean, nobody knows whether it's AI or not, this tune, but this band have come out of nowhere and all of a sudden got like 500,000 plays in like no time,
Oh,
and
right.
no one, there's no history for this band, and
No, no.
the way the reviews are written sound a lot like what you would type in to create it and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
so
But
yeah, it's a bit.
you're making me think of. I like Nick Cave. You probably hate him, but
No, I like it. I
oh,
like
do
Nick
you?
Cave.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, I
I
thought
mean,
you.
No, I mean it's done some great. It's quite eclectic. I probably don't like all of it, but
Okay, but
Proposition. Is it the
the
Proposition movie?
proposition, the soundtrack is really great
That's
work.
fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good film as well. So
Yes.
yeah, but yeah, he's very critical. He was very skeptical about what's coming. But his
Yeah.
argument, because I do get his red hand files, I think they're called, the
Okay.
mailing list, the
Yeah.
newsletter that he sends out where he's answering emails, and
Yeah.
he's been skeptical about what's coming around the corner with AI for a long time as an artist, and I understand that, but certainly again it correlates perfectly with what you just described with Velvet Sundown. Um, but I do think he's got a point when he says you need the human component. You need this, you know. And you're, we can say you're an electronic artist, really, can't we? That's how
Sure. Yeah.
even in Sleaford Mods, you're working with
Yeah.
electronics. So,
Sure.
as an electronic artist, you're still, there's still you at the helm, operating
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
gluing sounds together, and even
Sure.
if you're only using software or whatever. I don't know your tricks of the
Yeah.
trade, but
Yeah.
even if that's what you're, it still requires something of you and your input. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what is going to be lost, in the future. And
Yeah.
I think all artists should be a little concerned,
I
about
mean, like you say, there's
this.
lots of people saying you still need the person, and I think ultimately if will it that to try and say something positive about it, like any technology, it could be used in a good way and a bad way,
Mm,
and but the thing about it is that you can, say like you don't know how electronics music's made, you can find out, but with AI, how is it? It's so related to programming,
yeah,
and it's so difficult for a layman to enjoy some sort of method of how it's made. I mean, I've never even used Chat GPT. I mean, I've got friends that have done degrees. Like my friend, she did a sound degree,
right,
and
okay,
she used it. She used Chat GPT to bounce off. Because she didn't have
okay,
anybody. She didn't have anybody to talk to, working with ideas that she had. So
okay,
it can learn you. So after a month of using it, it can learn what your thesis is about or whatever it is you're doing, and it can
yeah.
give you appropriate feedback. So I can see it being useful for
Oh,
people,
absolutely. There's definitely
but
a
it's kind
place
of sad
for
that
it.
you can't find a real person to talk to in a
Yeah,
world full of
that's
people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you might know I also work as an English teacher over here in Poland, and teaching is another profession that is being threatened with replacement by AI. But when I
Mm.
ask students um, about how they feel about this, they very often say, "No, we need a real person to bounce off." But I
Yeah.
also, at the same time, understand why Chat GPT and everything else is taking off. I've got friends that rely on that, even teacher friends who will use Chat GPT to reel off questions about a subject, which I find slightly strange myself.
The, it's an evolving culture, if you imagine, because already people are, people that are writing degrees are being found out that they're using it the way that they answer questions. You can get, I don't know if you get failed on it or not, but people can tell that you've used it, and that's something that's going to increase as you've got a generation of people that have grown up with it. They're going to be able to spot even faster than you and I are that
Yeah.
it's that they've not plagiarized what ChatGPT's told it to say. um
Yeah.
because that's what you used to get. If you copied directly from the book that you were learning from, that's what that you get downgraded for that, wouldn't you? It's all about
Oh, absolutely.
reinterpreting.
You get called
you
out.
know
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
just
So
unacceptable. So,
yeah, so I'm sure that's still the case now, even if you are using chat. I don't know how people can tell that, but again, I don't use it. So,
no, it's yeah.
but obviously, there's a way that there's a slightly too I don't know what it is. A too sort of like too perfect way that it puts sentences together that make it sound
what, too artificial?
yeah, even though it does it very well and uses a lot of creative language, it's not the way it's not the way that we talk, and that's what's kind of evolving now. That's
yeah.
it is molding our futures in that
In
way.
a way,
I
yeah,
think.
absolutely, yeah. Again, I don't want to be against it, because I think it has
Yeah,
a place. Like all
sure.
technology,
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
There was a time, wasn't there, when people were afraid of, the locomotive. So
yeah, sure.
American pioneers.
Yeah,
So so
witchcraft. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So we need all of these things, and it is
yeah,
interesting. It's certainly an interesting time, and maybe
yeah,
um, it should be seen in that light. I think the world's got enough problems at the moment without, worrying about AI. And although I suppose it
yeah.
is
I
disconcerting
mean,
as well.
I don't know whether we do need it or not, but we've got it, and
You can't
that's
undo it, can you?
we can't. No, you can't. I mean, like another friend of my partner's was using it with her clients. When people have to write notes, you can use Chat GPT for that. So after a while of writing notes, you might have to correct the notes. But if you've got hundreds of patients or whatever, you can do all these notes in a second
Yeah,
because you've got this assistant effectively that knows how you write and how
yeah,
you say things.
yeah.
I mean, that's what's freaky about it. And if you've watched any sort of like recent sci-fi things where people have got a home help robot, Black
Uh,
Mirrors and things like that,
yeah.
does that show humans? And if you saw that, it's
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Channel 4 show, and that's all about synthetic humans that
Oh, is it? It's
uh,
an old theme in science fiction, though, isn't it?
of
The
course, it's a
idea of,
recurring theme. Yeah, humans is
yeah.
actually really good. It's
Oh,
like
is it? Okay.
yeah, they like fight for a citizenship type thing, and
Okay, I'll have to check it
yeah,
out. Black Mirrors, I've always been 50-50 on, so I think
it's
it's got
really
some nice
good, but
ideas.
they're great. But halfway through it, I just feel like killing myself. They're just so depressing.
Oh, right. Oh, I don't mind depressing stuff. Depressing music, depressing films, bring them
Yeah.
on. So,
Yeah, no, they just, I don't know, maybe depressing is not the right word. They just like, I find myself looking how long's left of the show. I'm like, oh God, another 40 minutes of this. I don't know if I can
uh, oh,
take it.
oh, right. Well, I might feel that way, but for different reasons.
You might like it. The concepts in it are always brilliant.
I do think that, but there's certain things I don't like about black books. But at the same time, there are some good ideas in there
Yeah,
along the way.
yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of Charlie Brooker though, so
All right.
yeah,
I think the thing is now with those shows, we're so close to them being real. When in our generation, like in the 80s and 90s, when you got sci-fi, it was this crazy idea that was going to happen sometime in the future.
yeah.
Now they're real things.
Now that
Just-
now we are in the future. Yeah, it's what
yeah,
I always say to my students when I am when we're discussing technology or anything. I always think about
yeah,
the original Star Trek and how I would
yeah,
look at the what were they
yeah.
called? The
Tricorder.
oh, I don't know what they had a special.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, when they're on a planet and they're able to, see the
Sure.
person they're talking to on the Enterprise, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, that looks so, it's so far into the future. I couldn't even imagine it ever existing in my lifetime. Now
yeah.
look at us,
No,
it's
everybody's got
it's
one. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
So this is the good side of technology. It
yeah,
is good. Communicators, were they called? Inter, inter,
yeah.
intergalactic communicators.
Maybe. Yeah.
No, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Yeah.
Anyway, but let's go back to extended network. We'll
Go on.
try and wrap this up in 10-15 minutes. And
All right, mate.
um, extended network, obviously, you're doing this album through me, and you've done a few releases. through me over the
I
years.
have, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did a 10-inch many years ago. We
We
did a
did,
double
yeah.
CD.
Yeah.
Mostly collecting things that are available already online on your Bandcamp or
Yeah.
SoundCloud or whatever. So
That's
it's all
right.
stuff that's digitally available. But
Yeah.
do you like the idea of having these physical releases? Are you a collector?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, my ears kind of like respond to it, and there's nothing better than listening to things on record. They just have that sound to them, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think certain things sound great on record.
Okay. So,
So
but do you buy stuff yourself on records
I do,
still?
yeah, yeah, I do buy
Okay.
things on record. Yeah,
What have
yeah.
you bought recently? Anything interesting? Anything nice?
What have I bought recently? Well, I say I bought that maybe when I've had the album. I also bought 99% as well.
Okay.
Um, just a few reissues, really. Just like if I mention something that I used to have a copy of, Robert will usually buy it for me. So
Okay.
like he'll just like go on the iPad and find it. So
Okay. Then it just comes through the
um,
mail.
yeah, but and as far as new things, I don't really, that's quite difficult, really. I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, I was going to say I got this record the other day. This is an old record.
I
It's
can't see it very
it's
well.
by this guy called Viet Dlam.
I don't know that.
Sorry, the album's called that. It's by Morgan Fisher.
Oh, yeah, I've heard Morgan Fisher. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
I'm not familiar with
it's
that though.
yeah. Well, this is a record that I had that I used to like because it's quite minimal. Like one track's just like like chimes. So
Okay.
it's the sort of thing that you could just like process. You could put it on and like process it and
Yeah. Okay.
do things with it. And the copy I had was completely bent. It was like
Oh, really? Right, really
it'd
warped.
been left in the sun. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, I hate it when that
So
happens. So
and like some of it's terrible, but some of it's really good.
okay. Uh,
So it's quite nice to get another copy of that.
yeah.
It's
Cool.
from '85, from
Right.
1985.
Okay. So.
Yeah, so it's like water music basically.
Hmm,
It's just a
okay.
guy playing a DX7, really.
Right. Okay. This sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so I'll have to check that out as
Well,
well.
you wouldn't be. It's total. It's an American guy that moved to Japan, I think, or
Oh,
something
right.
like
Okay.
that. And yeah, it's DX7. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There
If
you
you
go.
Google him, he's one of those fringe sort of. I think it's Cherry Red Records
Yeah,
released.
maybe that's where I've seen the name before, Morgan
Maybe,
Fisher.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So because obviously I've got
I
quite a
love
few
all that
things.
stuff. All that. There's other artists. Those sort of like not Brian Eno records.
Hmm. Yeah, oh yeah. There's plenty
People,
of stuff out there.
you know what I mean. People that just didn't get any kind of. They got to put a record out, but they didn't really get a lot of
Attention. Yeah,
attention. Yeah,
yeah. Just kind of slipped under the radar. Yeah, but I like stuff
yeah.
like that. So
I love it. Yeah,
yeah, I've just been playing the Robert Rental and Thomas Lear, the Bridge album. Do you know that?
Oh right, no, no, it's good.
But yeah, it used to be on Industrial Records in the late
Okay.
70s, and that's a nice electronic, quite crude electronics,
Yeah,
really good
right,
album. So yeah, I've
right.
just been playing that
I'll
recently
have
in
a
the
look.
last couple of days. Yeah, brilliant stuff. But yeah, extended network. Obviously, I put out a few things by you, but hasn't
Yeah.
anybody else approached you, or are you
Uh,
unapproachable?
I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's I don't know why, but it's just one of them things. Maybe it's a bit too different, for people what my solo thing is
Really?
and what Sleaford Mods is. But I mean, yeah, I mean, again, I don't really approach anybody else, so I don't know if
Oh,
you've got to be a
okay.
bit more cheeky. There's a guy. I've done a couple of remixes recently for this fella in Norway who does this label called Crispin Glover Records.
Okay. Not
Um,
familiar with that label either.
yeah, I mean, you should have a look. You'll like some of his stuff. He does like reissues. He does certain bands. He's got this kind of country band called Sugarfoot, who have been just did a little tour supporting the Water Boys actually.
Oh, okay.
But then he also does this band called BC Bingo Crowd that are like electronic sort of 80s sound. It's a bit like Depeche Mode, but
Right, okay.
sort of now. And really great singer. So I did a couple of remixes of their stuff that I was really into doing, really good. I mean, I've done a few. I mean, it's all fringe sort of people, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
sure.
but the other record he put out was Patrick Fitzgerald, if you remember that guy.
I've got a few of his things.
Right,
Yeah.
so he's put this like really expensive, the thing with the deal that he has is the money all comes from the government. So he basically just gets to really sort of like go to town with the packaging and
Oh,
the
right, okay. Oh, I'm
so
definitely gonna
so
check this out.
all the releases he puts out are absolutely beautiful. They're
Oh,
all
right,
really
lovely. Oh,
really lovely.
oh,
Yeah.
thanks for the tip. Yeah, so obviously he's somebody who's working with you. This guy, you said you did a couple of remixes for him, but
Yeah.
I can't believe nobody else has ever approached you. Because you're easy
What
to
to tell you,
you're
mate? Yeah.
easy enough to contact, aren't you? Or are you?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
are you?
I mean,
And you've got your Bandcamp and everything, and people
yeah,
can mess.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
easy. I mean, I'm open on to be DM'd on Instagram for a start.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, okay.
but I think it's true. Maybe it does reflect what things are like at the moment. I do get a lot of offers for remixes,
right.
but
Yeah.
not a lot. But there's a lot of people that I kind of want to be paid for it. I'm trying to get to a point
Of
where
course.
I can
Yeah.
be,
It's your job.
if I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so you can't keep doing everything for free, can you?
No, no, of course. No,
Which
I
is
fully
difficult.
understand that. I'm being given the warning again. It looks like we've chatted for quite a long time again. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
all
yeah,
right, man.
on that note, I think,
Yeah,
unless you've got anything to, well, again, I should thank you for agreeing to the double LP version of
yeah,
Albus as well.
yeah.
I think we'll see it in a couple of weeks or so as well. And thank you for doing
Wonderful.
the
Yes.
postcards and signing them and
Yeah.
everything else. It's no
Oh,
fun signing postcards. So
no, it's fine. I'm used to
yeah.
doing that. It's usually
All
more than
right.
that. I mean, I
Yeah,
will
I'm
just
sure.
quickly say that when it comes out, if you let me know when the release date is, there's a record shop in Leamington Spa. I used to live in Warwick for a while,
Okay.
and Seismic Records there. I'll be doing like an in-store there, and then one for Longwell Records in which is I can't remember where it is now, near Bristol.
Okay. I
But
was
Ian, who runs that shop there, and then I've got a few places. I've got a show in Lincoln as well.
Oh,
There's
when
a
is
gaming
that?
bar. It's the end of August. I think it's the 29th of August.
Oh, brilliant. I will tell
But
my
that
son.
yeah. So that's Aikido, which is like a gaming bar.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
again,
perfect.
all through the lockdown, when I first moved back to Lincoln, I went into Lincoln one day and ended up at this Aikido bar meeting all these people. It's a really nice bunch of people there. So,
Okay.
again, to answer what you're saying, I think there's a lot of fringe culture going on, and if you're not friends with these people, it's so immediate, and these people aren't making a lot of money out of it. They're just doing it for the love of it. And if you're not going to be friends with them, then why would they? There's so many people making music. I'm an old guy, there's loads of younger people making music,
Yeah.
they're trying to create their own times,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Trying to navigate their own way through it. Yeah, so
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I'm all for it as well.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, all I'll say again is, well, thank you for letting me know, because I'm glad you mentioned that about the in stores, because
yeah.
I need to write to you about that as well, and
Okay,
we'll discuss that in greater detail personally.
yeah,
But and yes, that's all perfectly fine and great as well. Thanks.
yeah,
But again, I think we'll have news in a couple of weeks or so. I'll chase the production up next week, probably see what's going on,
okay.
and then I hope one day you'll concede to another, album or something,
Sure,
on
yeah,
vinyl or whatever.
yeah,
But let's get this one done first
All
and
right, mate.
see how you feel in the future. Been lovely chatting with you as well, Andrew. I hope we see each other again in the flesh one
Yeah.
day in the
Yes.
near enough future. You need to get yourselves back to Poland.
Yes. I was going to ask you about how things are, because you have like a new right-wing president or prime minister or something.
Oh yeah. There is, but a conservative one, yeah. And I don't know, this is another one of those hot topics that appears almost daily in lessons with me. And I work every weekday doing a few lessons, and life just goes on as normal for me personally. It's similar to the pandemic that we
Sure.
discussed earlier. I'm
Yeah.
kind of in my own
Yeah.
bubble.
Okay.
Nothing
Yeah.
much is happening to me personally. I'm not,
No.
I'm not somebody who's got anything against anybody, So
No.
I don't know. I've got friends that seem very concerned about the current political climate. I've also got
Yeah.
friends and know people that are not concerned or even are kind of happy about things. So
Right.
I
Okay.
really
Well,
don't
that's
know
all
how
right. As
to,
long as, like, as long as you're not being persecuted in the street or.
No, no. I always joke about this, but when Brexit happened and all the expats over here. Not that I'd mix with too many of them, but I have got a
Yeah.
couple of friends that are British expats, and all of us were made to feel very welcome by the local government office in Krakow. But it almost seemed like they were doing their best to keep us. So
Yeah.
so
Okay.
so I mean, obviously we're Brits and we're all white as well. So I don't know how, but what I should
Yeah.
say in relation to what you're saying about the current government is that there is a growing Indian community in Poland, and I've
Right.
asked them. Because Indian food is amongst my favourites. It probably is my
Yeah.
favourite. So
Yeah.
I go to Indian restaurants quite regularly, or I'm ordering a takeaway or whatever. But I've actually asked some of these Indians or Bangladeshis or whatever if they experience any trouble, and all of them, no, not most, all of them have said no,
That's good,
no
isn't it?
racism, no trouble. So
Yeah.
I always think the political sphere is just removed from the reality of normal people, everyday people going about
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
everyday lives. So I feel kind of removed from it,
Sure.
to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not what you wanted to hear, but that's how I feel.
No. No. It
Signing,
kind of. It kind of is. I mean, it's not. I mean, I haven't actually looked what's happening there, but in most with this seems to be this ripple of like extreme right uh, politics. If you I don't know if you've been following what's happening in the US, but it's absolutely insane. And
yeah,
we've got reform here now, and France had it, and there's this kind of like wave that seems to be going across the world, Western world, of fascism, basically. So
yeah. So
it's okay being conservative as long as it's fairly centrist conservatism.
and I'm not saying I'm positioned there either, but I'm I just don't feel like I'm almost 60, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking all my life I've never liked any of the politics, never liked any government, don't like any politicians,
Yeah.
and my life just seems to be bobbing along like a turd on the sea,
Yeah.
bobbing along in its normal fashion,
Yeah.
generally. Maybe it's because I'm fortunate that I wouldn't be amongst the people that feel persecuted,
Sure. Yeah.
perhaps. It's a good question to ask, maybe, dare I say, a black guy in Poland, if they
Yeah.
feel in
Yeah.
any way intimidated or threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
personally don't. I feel very welcome here, generally, So, and
Yeah.
I feel good here. So, but the
Yeah. Good.
government, it's
Well,
not
that's what I'm
part.
saying. As long as they're not being extreme, in the US, it's not just black. It's not people of just people of color. It's LGBTQ people. It's women. It's really going back to like the 1950s or further. You know, it's terrible what's happening there. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
of
becoming a
course.
fascist state. You know, which is frightening. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as we said earlier, the world is absolutely, it's crazy at the moment. It's been like, I was thinking it started going a bit like this after the pandemic, but really it goes back to the beginning of the millennium. I think
I
it's
think you're right.
just it's just
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
been bubbling,
bonkers.
hasn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
what's happening in the US has been bubbling for a while.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, on that rather
on that
down
bombshell,
on that dour note, I think we'll leave
have a
it there.
great day, man.
Anyway, you enjoy the rest of the day and
I will.
picking those blackberries that you told me about earlier.
Yes, I'm getting out
Yeah,
there now.
enjoy your foraging.
I will, man. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
okay, take it easy as well. Thanks a lot. Cheers, Andrew. Bye bye.
Speak to you
See you.
soon. Bye.
Will do.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.